All right, thank you very much. I'm going to try to keep track of my time here. So I want to find out if anyone has ever, let's see here, anybody ever done this? Where's my cursor? It's called a fish pedicure or a fish spa. Has anyone ever done that? Oh, someone's waving their hand back there. Oh, a couple people. Oh, my goodness. Okay. Well, I haven't done this, but people report a little bit of anxiety about it beforehand, but once they do it, they actually find it to be a mildly pleasant sensation. And I have to say, that is exactly how I would characterize doing a MOOC. You put you and yourself, your ideas out there, and then thousands of people nibble away at it, and it's really mostly out of your control. So it was definitely a little anxiety-inducing, but in the end, what I want to share with you today, it was really a very pleasant experience. So this is my MOOC spa, if you will. This was the global nibbling, what it looked like when we started back in August. And then this is what it looked like at the end when the students completed their final assignment. And those colored dots were our final assignment. I'll tell you more about that in just a minute. I'm guessing most of you know that MOOC stands for Massive Open Online Course. They're gaining visibility as a wide-reaching educational format for really kind of any topic. And they began in 2008, really started gaining traction in 2011. They've been on a huge growth curve. It's kind of plateauing now a little bit. But Esri actually did their first MOOC about the same time this fall, Going Places with Spatial Analysis. And there are three major MOOC providers, Coursera, edX, and Udacity, or however you pronounce that. Our university subscribes to Coursera, which means we are buying access to a database of millions of potential students. And we signed on, Penn State signed on as a Coursera partner about 2 years ago, and we only have a limited number of slots, so it was a competitive two-stage process to be able to get our Geodesign MOOC approved, and we were part of the second round of the MOOCs offered at Penn State. Now, some of these courses are purely thought leadership, and some are closely tied to Penn State's online program. So our Geodesign MOOC was really a combination of both of these reasons for doing the course. So we launched our MOOC in August, and we were really delighted. Over 11,000 had signed up at the start, and by the end, we'd reached over 17,000 from 166 different countries. Anybody here participate last fall? No? Okay, just a couple of you. That's all right. So here's a couple things I learned about MOOCs that you may also find interesting. So they range in content from a detailed intermediate level to like a teaser introduction level. And because geodesign as a term is relatively new, I wanted this MOOC to be accessible to the widest possible audience. So we took that introductory approach. These courses vary in length from 12 weeks, although someone just told me they're taking a UN course for 13 weeks, to 4 weeks. But research shows that participation in MOOCs tends to trail off after about 4 weeks, and we decided to do a 5-week course. And MOOCs attract lifelong learners. And many online courses, like the ones we offer at Penn State and our World Campus, are targeting working professionals who want to have career advancement without moving. A MOOC really expands that audience to include individuals who are looking for continued personal growth. And there's no entry to get into a MOOC other than signing up. So they can be any age, any stage in a career, any career. So it's wide-ranging, just if they're interested. It's something I wasn't aware of initially when I started this, and it turned out to be a huge factor. MOOCs do not fall under the fair use education standards. So 100% of the content had to work well for thousands of students exclusively online. That was quite a challenge that I didn't know I was facing when I said, oh, I'll do this. Preparation of a MOOC is really not for the faint of heart. Perhaps you could guess from my introduction that it's really a kind of a wild ride doing a MOOC. Speaking as a professor who taught for over 25 years, I can honestly say that it's not the same as a typical course or even a typical online course. When I approached Mike Flaxman about going to be using a recent video as one of my guest speakers, he said, oh, wow, that's pretty crazy. In one MOOC lecture, I'm going to reach more students than all my years teaching at MIT. And actually, if you think too much about that, it does get kind of daunting. Sometimes preparation for a course is really solely the responsibility of the instructor, but that's not the case with a MOOC, so I want to give many were involved and give them credit. So the core team was myself as the instructor, our geodesign program manager, Dan Meehan, and instructional designer, Rebecca Joyner. We also have an advisory board for our graduate programs, and they provided early input as we were developing the course content. We also have a production staff for the videos, server access, and those kind of things. I'm really fortunate that my college has an e-learning institute that provides this expertise. And we're also, and I also sought consultation with my colleagues in landscape architecture and geography. And we're also really fortunate to have in-kind support from Esri's education team. They helped us, developed one of the interactive activities and chimed in regularly on the discussion forums. So I'm going to demonstrate the MOOC in just a minute, but I want to quickly share the 4 main goals we had for creating this Geodesign MOOC. So our initial focus, as I mentioned earlier, was really on keeping this at a very introductory level. We didn't want to lose students in jargon or minute details, and we correctly believe that most of the students taking this were really not aware of geodesign prior to the course. And our goal was to enable them to find relevance in the materials at this gateway level of experience. The second course was to raise the level of excitement about the possibilities for for positive change in a place. And this one was really important to me personally. I really want to instill hope in these students. We all know that geodesign has the potential to empower people, and I wanted to assist the students in understanding that they can participate in advancing desired change. The third goal for the MOOC, comes out gook if you say that wrong, was highlighted by our Geodesign Advisory Board, and that's to inspire students through real-world examples. So I curated 15 case studies, over half of which outside the US, representing 7 different countries. And again, that was a distinct challenge to find the desired level of detail for those projects available solely online. Then the last goal, which is related to the others, is a desire to have a global conversation about issues involving change in a place and the potential to approach those challenges, how they're handled in a different manner, and specifically how the geodesign process can facilitate desired change. And as I mentioned, we opted for a 5-week course, and we worked really hard to try to find cool ways to keep the students motivated to return each week. You know, there's a lot of free stuff out there on the internet, and this is free, so what makes them want to come back each week? So we tried to have some engaging experiences to motivate them to come in. So this is how I structured the course. There was 1 lesson topic, or theme if you want, each week. And so there was a key topic lecture, guest lectures, a change agent, 3 case studies, a reading or 2, and an interactive mapping activity. And I'll explain each of these in just a minute. Another important component, a very important component of MOOCs, are the discussion forums. This is where all the student and peer interaction takes place. And we set up some sub-forums to assist in guiding discussions, but really anyone who's on the course can begin a discussion, which is kind of cool. And there actually were some discussions that started in, I didn't know what language, but not a language I could read, which was also very cool. And this was kind of a fun one. You know, there's thousands of students taking this course, so there's hundreds of posts. But when you come across one like this, it's really quite rewarding. So this is related to my second goal of empowering people. And this person was thinking about going forward with their final project in their community. And this is one of the funniest posts on the forum. I had paired a photo of people pointing for directions, but my voiceover in the video said they might be looking for a coffee shop. But this photo is taken in Holland. And coffee shops are where you go to buy cannabis. Who knew? So they said it was probably an unintentional misconception. Yes, it was not intentional. Although I don't think I'm going to change that. I think I'm going to leave that. It's kind of fun. So I designed the Geodesign MOOC around, again, I said a main topic each week. So these were the 5 topics. So the first week was shared languages. So I covered spatial thinking, the importance of location, and creative change. The second week, the 3 Ds of geodesign were design, decision, and data. The third week, the 3 Cs of geodesign were complexity, computation, and collaboration. The fourth week was the influence of context, where we were talking about the various factors, scale, and people. And then save the really exciting last week for talking about the framework and the process, building up to all of that. So in preparing this, I developed a main lecture with the text and supporting graphics to best explain that week's concepts. And then that content was delivered in 2 ways. The first was we shot a video. And that's actually, Coursera is built mainly for video instruction, but we were breaking that mode with how we approach this. And then the second way to deliver the content was to embed in the Coursera website the text from that lecture and all the supporting graphics to ensure students, particularly in developing countries where video access isn't always so great, they could still follow along and stay engaged. So I took the approach that the main lecture is not the core content. Instead, I made the main lecture video complement the rest of the content. So the key concepts were elaborated on each week through the guest lectures, these change agents, the case studies, and the activities. So the guest lectures would go into more detail about the concept that was part of the main lecture. So for example, in week 3, I had 3 guests, and they were discussing the 3 C's in more detail from their perspective. The change agents are really at the root of geodesign because geodesign is defined as creative change for a place. So getting students to think about who or what are those agents of that change is really important. So I was fortunate to discover Arup, which is a large international design and engineering firm. They have a series of cards called Drivers of Change. It's a really extensive box of really interesting topics. So I selected 3 cards that would tie in with my change agent topic for each week as part of the discussions. And they're almost like flashcards. They're very concise overview, and they really serve as a great way to provoke dialogue at an introductory level. The interactive activity each week related to either the change agent or the main topic. So this is from week 2 when I was introducing data layers, and also infrastructure was the change agent. So this is if you haven't been on this website, the Urban Observatory website, where you can change up cities and change the pieces on the left side there. It's really kind of fun. You may have also seen this at the International User Conference the last couple of years. So that was a really great interactive activity, solely available on the web. And then the last weekly component that's really essential, as I mentioned before, is those case studies, giving the real-world examples of the best way to do this. And I used the case studies, tied those in with a change agent topic for each week. And then these were interactively mapped using Esri story maps. So in the end, the students, the concluding activity, their final activity, they were asked to reflect on all that they learned and to outline a geodesign challenge as their final assignment. And this was part of my goal of helping them center this for their place and their interests. And then they mapped their location of their challenge. And also, and then you can see here, they put the challenge title, the scale of it, and a web link. And then they also submitted a little PDF overview, which I'll show that in just a minute. Okay, so that's enough for the demo. So let me jump out of here and go to the MOOC itself, which I have here. Here we go. So this is the MOOC website. So the content's delivered on the right, and then you have all the choices on the left. So if we go to the schedule here, so you can see that outline of the same thing each week, the topic, the guest lectures, change agent, theme, case studies, activities. So set that up for each week. And then we can go to the weekly lessons. And there you can see again, there's the topics listed. These were highlighted and revealed each week, so it's over now, so that's why the blue bar is at the bottom. I'll go ahead and show you week 1. Any student could go back. Once it's open for the whole rest of the course. And so clicking on the main lecture, again, you can see I'm not going to click on the video, but that's the access to the video. But then there's the lecture text, and then these are the images that were showing up along with me in the video as part of I had an animated PowerPoint running as we're recording the voiceover for the video. And then the guest lectures, again, we had 1 for each week. So I showed you week 3 before. So a little bio about each of the guest lectures, and then a click on to go to their video. And then the change agents. So those were and this was actually considerable discussion. We're only going to limit to 5 of these change agents. So we picked kind of some seminal ones: flooding, infrastructure, conservation, sustainable development, and urbanization. Those ended up being the 5 that we picked. And you can select any of them. Let's pick week 4 here. And we have the web link. So this is, again, the change agents were those flashcards, if you will. So urban agriculture was something related to sustainable development. So it links right to that website. We did provide these also as a PDF, again, for people who had the problems with the website link. And then case studies. So again, the case studies were tied to those same change agent themes. So I'm going to go ahead now and jump to the case studies are mapped. Where are my case studies here? So there was we revealed a tab each week. Again, the idea of trying to encourage them to come back and check us out each week. So you can see the first week was flooding, infrastructure, and so this is sustainable development. And so this week there was one in China, one in Africa, and one in British Columbia. So here's the one in Africa. And those of you, oops, there we go, familiar with how the story maps work, you get a little pop-up here, and then you can expand it to get a little more detail, and then you can go to the website. And I'll just click, I already clicked on the website. And fortunately, the American Society of Landscape Architects encapsulation of all their awards is very detailed with a lot of imagery and also a lot of explanation about the project. So many of the case studies that I ended up being able to use, and they gave me permission to link to this, ended up being the approach. But I want to point out, it's interesting, I just saw Ron after this, one of the case studies, the one in British Columbia here for sustainable development, was a community that they worked on with using the technique he just showed you, with using the touch table and the stakeholders. And they were looking at reducing carbon emissions. I'd met his colleague Cynthia Gerling. I know her, but I saw this this spring demonstrated at a conference, and so I rang her up, and she said, yes, you can use it as a case study. So that was very exciting. Okay, and then the final assignment, here's all those dots, and the students picked the dot based on their topic. So this one was a purple one, the sustainable development. It was a city, so this is in Africa. And then they had to submit those as PDFs, and I have queued up a few of those to show you. So this one is in Sweden. I've got examples from all over the world here. This was interesting, a town that has to relocate part of their city center because of mine subsidence. And this particular challenge, I want to show you, scroll through it. They did a great job of highlighting all the pieces that were required in this submission. So they had to talk about the scale of the challenge. They had to provide a URL that linked to some more information about the challenge. They had to discuss the collaborators who would be involved. They had to talk about the factors that would impact the situation and what data they thought they might need for analysis. So here's an example from Japan. Our military base in Okinawa is going to be relocated. So that was definitely an interesting challenge. This is one from Kenya, where they were looking at, there's potentially a new port that's going in right near World Heritage Sites. And this one here is from here in the US, from Richmond, Virginia, concerned about a proposed flood wall in a historic park. I pulled out the ones that were most graphic rich. They didn't have to include graphics, but some of these really did a great job with that. And the last quick example here to show you, is in Italy. And they were looking at a challenge that they have to put in an underground, the railroad, I think it's probably what we'd call a subway, right, is going underground. And again, so they've outlined their challenge. So it was really inspiring, all the interaction and input, and to see all these challenges from all over the world. So let me go back to the PowerPoint here. So in closing, go to this. What the MOOC demonstrated is that once people understand what geodesign can do and the opportunities that geodesign provides, they absolutely get it. And you can see here, these were comments from literally all over the world. This is Coursera asked them to share stories and feedback, so I just did some little snips here. But they really see ways that implementing geodesign can benefit their situation. So it was really inspiring to do all this with these thousands of students. And we've just gotten approval to offer this course again in July. So I had there's some of these bookmarks hanging around here, but the website, you just go on Coursera. So far, we're the only geodesign on Coursera. You can also just Google it. So thank you very much.